Sarah's inner conflict was intensifying. Despite the success in her personal life, her husband, Michael, a devoted and caring man, provided their family with prosperity. Their teenage daughters adored him. In everyone's eyes, including his wife's, he was the perfect spouse and parent, but her heart harbored a feeling of dissatisfaction and a desire to have her attractiveness confirmed. Her desirability. Approaching 45 and the time when the children were about to leave the nest, she examined herself even more closely. Although her husband reassured her that she looked better than ever, Sarah noticed changes in her appearance. The firmness of her body was yielding to the natural aging process. Wrinkles appeared on her face, and her hair took on strands of gray. Her longing for affirmation of her allure was fueled by every glance at the young, handsome men in her office. She began altering her style, making it more daring, and noticed a shift in her colleagues' gazes. They complimented her more often and paid her greater heed. Especially standing out was Jacob, a charming coworker who had flirted with her for years, but they had never taken it to the next level. However, one day alone together, they both encountered the long-awaited moment of true passion. This chance encounter marked the beginning of a journey into the world of forbidden sensations for the woman. Recognizing the danger of their actions, the lovers decided to continue their tryst in secret. Their passionate rendezvous grew into regular meetings, and her colleagues suggested a cruise where they could fully immerse themselves in their own world, reveling in one another without fear of discovery. Sarah deliberated at length about how to tell Michael of her intention to leave for 2 weeks. She decided to employ a method of half-truths. Believing it would be less painful for him, she would tell him that she needed a break to regain emotional equilibrium and renew feelings. The desire to think about their family's future, talk to other people, experience joy, and temporary freedom to explore new relationships would be the reason for this decision. While she was gone, Michael would also have freedom from her presence. After 20 years of marriage and sex only with her, he would probably welcome a respite from the routine. Sarah doubted Michael would see other women in her absence, let alone start anything serious. She figured he would simply await her return. Maybe he would miss her a little, maybe she would have to promise not to repeat anything like this. Knowing how deeply her husband loved her, she reckoned he would endure her brief hiatus for the sake of preserving their marriage. That was why Sarah felt certain he would not take decisive steps over her spiritual quest for self-discovery and new, intense sensation. She intended to come back and be a faithful wife. After the cruise, she already eagerly anticipated that moment and planned to do everything possible to restore intimacy with Michael, lavishing him with attention and care. She even entertained the idea that 2 weeks of passionate sex on the cruise might fully satisfy her current craving, and she would no longer seek encounters with her lover. However, if that did not happen, she would have to act with greater caution after reuniting with her husband. She faced several months of avoiding contact with Jacob to minimize risks to her envisioned future of raising children and grandchildren, living out a carefree old age with Michael. All this required careful planning. And now she needed to find an approach with her husband when he was in an amiable mood. For instance, after sex, Sarah and Michael had just finished a session that seemed merely an imitation of tender caresses. Although Sarah feigned the utmost pleasure, it was obvious to her husband that she had failed to fully immerse herself in the act. However, the woman's goal was not her own enjoyment. The main thing was to give pleasure to her spouse. Lying on her back in bed, breathing heavily, Sarah decided the time had come to broach the disturbing topic. "Michael, you know I love you, right?" she asked suddenly. "Yes, dear," he replied with a nod. Then Sarah proposed a temporary release from her role as wife and mother to re-examine her life. She claimed that after a break, she would become a more devoted and better wife and mother. Michael listened attentively. However, when Sarah said she needed time to explore herself, the husband abruptly got out of bed, dressed hastily, and headed for the hallway. "Wait, where are you going?" she asked in surprise, not understanding why. Michael had loudly requested their daughters gather in the kitchen. She was unclear why the children had to be included in this discussion. Michael explained they were part of the family and needed to talk over the woman's desire to take a leave. Her husband suggested they all sit at the kitchen table and speak their minds. The questions and incomprehension of what was happening began to sound doubts and anxiety in her. Michael, despite Sarah's plea to talk alone, went downstairs to the kitchen, brewed coffee for himself, and didn't even offer his wife a cup, as he usually did. Sarah's confidence was quickly evaporating. Michael looked at his wife with a grave expression, not answering her probing. She was merely asking for personal time, insisting she needed to figure herself out. However, when the daughters convened in the kitchen, his response was cold and assertive. "Well, you can go away with your boyfriend, Jacob." Sarah looked shocked. She denied ties with Jacob and labeled him simply a colleague from work. She tried to explain she required a respite and time to unravel her feelings, ponder their future. "Yes, ponder how to have sex with Jacob without hiding from others we know," said Michael, confirming the sense he was aware of what was happening. "What are you talking about? I'm merely suggesting you take a little break from me and give me some time to." Sarah began to justify herself. Shirk your duties as wife and mother. Well, we'll give you a reprieve. We'll just call it a divorce instead of a vacation from marriage. Michael interrupted her, making clear his intentions. Sarah tried to soothe him, saying he had taken her words far too seriously. But Michael would not be swayed. Only now did the woman notice her daughters, Jane and Abby, had suitcases next to them. Girls, why do you have suitcases? Explain what's going on, said Sarah, no longer able to endure this. Why don't you talk to Mom while I go get my suitcase? Michael proposed, heading upstairs, but voices from the kitchen reached his ears. Girls, address Sarah, he instructed them. I'm afraid your father misunderstood what I was asking for. Jane was the first to intervene. Be honest, Mom. We've known for several months what you and your lover have been up to. I have no idea what you're talking about, Sarah denied awkwardly. We're talking about your Thursday lunches that have turned into quick Thursday dates and are about to become a 2-week cruise with Jacob, Abby chimed in. What? You can't know that. I mean, I haven't done anything like that. Jacob is just a colleague I sometimes have lunch with, Sarah brushed off. Really? When you and him decided to spend your lunch break in your office, Dad got a call. Your colleagues were looking for you. You and Jacob exceeded the lunch break limit, Jane explained. That's right, Sarah remembers that day. When I came home that evening, Michael said he had gotten a call from my work asking where his wife was. The woman lied and told him she had been in a meeting with her boss, Mr. Thompson. I was in a meeting with Mr. Thompson, she repeated her lie. Then why was it him specifically who called and asked where you were anyway? That kind of situation has happened more than once. That's when Dad decided to hire a private investigator. We have plenty of video and photos of you with Jacob, Jane said. That's true, Mom. That loser is not as good as our dad. You became a cheating old hag, Abby remarked. How dare you talk to your mother that way? Sarah bristled. How dare you do what you're doing instead of behaving like a good mother and faithful wife? Abby said angrily. The woman didn't know how to respond. If your father suspected something, why didn't he tell me about it straight and stop me? She changed direction. He obviously didn't think it was important, Abby continued. Mom, you have a ring on your finger that says you're our father's wife. You agreed to forsake all other men when you married Dad. Dad said that if he had stopped you this time with Jacob, you would have just gotten better at hiding your deceit, Jane intervened. Well, he could have said something. He should have said something if it bothered him that much. It just shows he doesn't care if I get some innocent attention from another man or not. I don't understand why he suddenly got so jealous, Sarah tried to bristle. No, Mom, he didn't say anything to you because he needed time to prepare. His lawyer and accountant have been working to prevent you from getting your hands on his money in a divorce. He didn't want the threat of financial ruin interfering. A few weeks ago, he came to us and told us what was happening. He showed us video of you with Jacob. It was disgusting. Now, my sister and I stand by Dad. He explained that modern divorce laws favor the wife no matter what she's done, so this lawyer and accountant have been reducing your joint accounts the last couple of months. I'm sure you didn't know that. Thanks to you, Abby's and my college is now fully paid for, Jane explained impassively. What? Where did he get the money for that? Sarah asked, shocked. It's just low of him to do all this behind my back. And you two have conspired against me with your father, Sarah asked, shocked. No, Mom. You and your lover conspired against our family. Either turn a blind eye to your lust or let you destroy us while you run off with your lover and a large sum of money. Abby's remark made both girls snicker. Sarah looked stunned and didn't know how to respond. At that moment, Michael returned with his suitcase in hand. Michael, maybe we can all calm down and talk about this. I admit I may have made a big mistake. I really don't want a divorce. I'll tell Jacob I was wrong when I decided to spend time with him. I'll never see him again. I promise I never intended to divorce you. I just wanted a low break. The husband just sneered contemptuously at that. Too late for that, dear. I understand you and Jacob have already paid for the cruise trip. In my opinion, you two really should enjoy the trip because life is going to get a lot harder for you two after you get back, Michael said distrustfully. What do you mean? Sarah asked distrustfully. You'll have to take care of housework and other duties yourself because the girls and I will be living in a new apartment. By the way, it has a jacuzzi. The girls happily squealed at the news. Michael went on, when you and Jacob get back from the trip, you won't have to go back to work. The boss is ready to fire you both. He won't do anything like that. Jacob and I are valuable employees, Sarah denied. Are you sure? Did you know Jacob has a wife named Paige? You and Jacob are employees whose actions allow Paige and me to sue your company for allowing intimate interaction during work hours. Your boss was very happy when Paige and I agreed to withdraw the lawsuit. If you're both fired, the husband continued impassively. This wasn't supposed to happen this way, the woman cried, grabbing her head. No, you were supposed to remain a faithful wife. We were supposed to grow old, retire, and raise our grandchildren together. Instead, you decided to distance yourself from your family and ruin your reputation, the man said coldly. Michael, I can't believe you're treating me so badly. I thought you loved me. What else are you going to do to spite me? Sarah pleaded. I'm glad you asked. If you fight for the kids, the video of your adventures with Jacob will reach your parents, relatives, colleagues, neighbors, and might even end up on an adult site. Michael continued, cutting no less sharply than a knife with his words. That can't be, Michael. I love you. I always came home and was a good wife and homemaker. I just wanted to be alone for a while. Things would have gone back to normal in a month and a half. You're accusing and tormenting me for no reason. You all have to forgive me and give me a second chance. The woman began to defend herself. No, you had a second, third, fourth, and many more chances. Every time you met with Jacob, just 3 months ago, our marriage meant everything to me. But upon finding out about everything, I realized our marriage and our children meant nothing to you. Sarah, you hurt me very deeply. I was so devastated, I could have done something to myself. If it was just the two of us, I thought about an amicable divorce, but the idea that I wouldn't be able to see my girls when I wanted helped me come to my senses. I decided to do everything possible to make sure you and Jacob reap minimum benefit from this, the man said. Michael, I can't believe you're treating me so badly. I thought you loved me. What else are you going to do to spite me? Sarah pleaded. I'm glad you asked. If you fight for the kids, the video of your adventures with Jacob will reach your parents, relatives, colleagues, neighbors, and might even end up on an adult site. Michael continued, cutting no less sharply than a knife with his words. That can't be, Michael. I love you. I always came home and was a good wife and homemaker. I just wanted to be alone for a while. Things would have gone back to normal in a month and a half. You're accusing and tormenting me for no reason. You all have to forgive me and give me a second chance. The woman began to defend herself. I would suggest figuring out how you're going to survive with the house and its bills without a steady income. You can sell the house and get half its value. If that works out, you'll have enough money to get by until you find a job. Michael and the girls were leaving when the phone rang. That's probably Jacob looking for a place to stay the night. Don't let him use any of my stuff, the man said in parting before exiting the home. They disappeared with the children before Sarah could even call out to them. Hello, Sarah. You know we got caught, Jacob said on the phone. Yes, I know, you bastard. This is not how you said things would go. I shouldn't have fallen for your fairy tales. Sarah bristled, feeling anger and resentment toward her lover. Hey, I didn't seduce you. You jumped me in your office, the man objected. It's useless to argue now. We need to figure out what to do to save our families and jobs, he said. Can I come over? Paige kicked me out. I can't afford a motel, he continued. I guess it doesn't matter now, but hurry. Maybe tomorrow we can do something to at least save our jobs. That day was the last they were together as a family before the divorce hearing. Sarah disappeared, and the house was quickly sold. She took her half of the equity, as well as all their savings and checks, apparently for her personal motives. Michael felt no concern about this. Most of the proceeds had gone to prepaying the girls' college tuition. Michael used the money from the house sale to replenish the emergency fund that had been spent on paying for the children's college. Ultimately, due to his wife's actions, Michael decided to wait a year and finalize the divorce in her absence to prevent any chance of her coming back for money or custody of the children. He did not want her returning. To his surprise, after the divorce, Jacob remained living in their old neighborhood, finding a low-paying job and leading a modest, solitary life. Paige soon started a romance with one of her neighbors but was in no hurry to marry him. In time, Michael also found himself a girlfriend who worked as a teacher at his daughter's school. The girls and Michael lived well. 2 years after that whole situation, the daughters left for college. They kept in touch with their mother via Facebook but did not share any information about her with their father per his own request. After the divorce, the man did not want to hear anything about that woman. He continues working at his old job while his relationship with his girlfriend developed positively. They did not discuss marriage but talked of commitment and fidelity. It seemed Michael's sex life had never been better. The girls maintained contact with Sarah but said their father did not wish to share information about himself or receive news about her. Looking back on 20 years of married life with Michael made her reflect. During that time, Sarah had been a devoted wife and caring mother, investing great effort into the home and work. Her income, together with Michael's funds, went toward providing for the family, paying the girls' tuition, maintaining the household, and covering the bills. She considered taking some money from the house justified given her significant contribution to the family's well-being. Paying for the daughter's college was a brilliant decision. She could not argue with that. The question is whether she deserved the punishment imposed on her after 20 years of fulfilling the role of a devoted wife and mother and just 3 months of bad behavior. Sarah pondered more than once whether those 3 months had been so much bad as foolish. Jacob did not meet her expectations, and the value of relations with him dropped to zero when the woman faced the consequences of her actions. Michael, her former husband, took on the role of an avenger. When she left, the lover tried to extort money from her for ruining his marriage canal. Sarah lived alone, hoping Michael would allow her to return. She has a hospital job in another town where no one knows her. She spent a lot of time in an online chat for women who were left because of cheating, consoling herself that she was lucky compared to some of them. Her looks were still attractive. Michael, she thought, knew how good a wife and mother she could be. She hoped the daughters would soften their attitude and restore her reputation in their father's eyes. She wished for Michael to find a place in his heart to love and forgive her, to give her a second chance. She'd assured herself she would never betray him again and dreamed of reconciliation. Girlfriend of 3 years has been cheating on me for months. I confirmed evidence in video, photos, and messages. She has 2 relationships, 2 boyfriends. I'm not sure if the other guy knows either. I'm not hurt or angry. It's only been a week since knowing. And she suspects nothing and treats me as a boyfriend. There's one thing we are tied into right now financially, and I'm trying to get out of it, which will take time. Her family knows about the other guy and hid him from me. I'm just trying to understand why she hasn't left me. I don't owe her anything, and she owes me nothing. She doesn't receive money from me or vice versa. All I provide is the boyfriend part. There's no point in being in a relationship with her, and yet she lies to me through her teeth to continue the relationship, as if I'm the only guy. I don't understand why she needs me. Advice needed. Ask for advice and you'll get it. First up, look for the term cake eaters. You will have your answer. Next piece of advice. You don't think that she gets some kind of joy thinking that she's outsmarting you and maybe the other guy too? Phil replied, I believe so. I can't find any other reason besides her being selfish and enjoying the non-consent double boyfriend idea. Someone else adds, she's trying to keep you as a backup plan if things don't work out while she tries to find something better. She wants to explore her options but wants to make sure that she still has you, which is not fair to you at all. I say start cutting her out of your life and stop doing any of the things you do for her. Make plans without her. Stop doing the little things. Don't tell her about your day. Don't be a jerk, but don't show that you care about her anymore. Remove her from your life, and the same for her family. Anything you've done for her, if possible, undo it. They're not worth your effort. Yeah, there's truth to the comments here. Opus some cheaters get a kick out of the secrecy. Cheaters think they're so smart. It's all about the ego boost they need to feed. OS update. This post is an update on my previous post. Since there were comments on an update, yes, I did confront her. But I didn't tell her that I knew. Instead, I asked her questions about if she loved me, if she would ever hurt me, etc. I did it in a way where she wouldn't notice, and she didn't. At the moment, I even asked her about showing some photos at these events where the other boyfriend was at, and she did, but not from the gallery or photo app, just the pictures she would want me to see. Zero hesitation. She kept lying but said something that stuck to me. She said I deserve better out of nowhere. And I asked if I deserve better, should I leave? She said no, you deserve better, but I don't want you to leave. I recorded half of the conversation. I kissed her on the cheek, and she noticed I was off just from this. But I said I was sick, asked her to fix this financial situation, and told her to let me know when she got home. She didn't, and I blocked her from there on everything. There was no point for me to confront her. She would have lied more, gaslit me, or worse, got angry at me. She knew what she was doing and still wanted me around. She has no heart and admitted she was selfish, hid things, and thought all men are trash, which she said it herself. She considered herself a feminist that day, but she isn't like this. I believe she fought with her other boyfriend, so she was upset. Since I did some last-minute snooping on social media before blocking, funny how she comes to me. I'm not hurt nor heartbroken. This has not changed my opinion on women and relationships. It was long-term relationships who I did want to progress. However, I'm happy that I found out before anything. All her actions are red flags. Cover-ups made sense to why sometimes I felt miserable and misunderstood. I feel relieved that I was not wrong in how my gut felt sometimes with her. She gave me bad energy while I always carried positive energy. I learned a lot and picked up a quote that made sense. The reality is if people want to cheat, they're going to cheat, and there's nothing you can do about it. Weak, insecure, and disloyal people cheat. Strong, confident, loyal, and healthy people communicate like adults to work things out when their needs aren't being met or they're unhappy. Coach Corey Wayne. She never communicated her issues, I did. I hope this post may be a helpful tip or information for any of you, and I wish you the best of luck. Let's see what the community thinks. First up, it's funny how the old ghost and walk away and never look back works so well with cheaters because no matter how you look at it, they know exactly why they got ghosted. The realization will hit them when they find nothing goes through, the calls go straight to no answer, and they can't see your socials anymore. Is all the message that they need, and you know the first thought through their head will be, oh, confronting is for Hallmark movies and sop internet memes when someone knows what they have done. The betrayed owe it to themselves to just simply ghost. Walk away and never look back is the best option. Someone else adds, no need to confront her, but you should let the other guy know. He deserves the agency to make decisions based on the truth, just the same as you. Dop replies, I think he knew his goal was to take him from her, what I captured and saw. However, he didn't know she was still officially with me while dating him officially and becoming exclusive. She didn't want to lose both sides. I have zero intention of letting him know. He will find out and he will cause problems for her. Another user adds, the instant she told you that you deserve better was your opening to ask her why she is saying that. She might have broken in that instant honestly, but you did not take the opportunity she was giving you. You unpicked the wrong dinner once again. And it will keep happening until you finally learn to find out who it really is you're dating. Trust is mostly fine but way better with simply verifying if it is actually true or not. I bet she has cheated in the past and it is who she has always been. Ghosting her was exactly the thing to do. Now work on fixing your broken partner picker. Top replies, nope, I did ask her why she said that. And I got the same exact thing that I expected to hear, a lie. I don't have to reference it here since it's not important. I did choose the wrong girl to be with. I said there were red flags and things I noticed to which I asked her, and I always got a response. She knew what she was doing, and I'm sure she's done this in the past. Gladly, she never asked for money or small favors, but never anything big. Everything from romance to sex life was normal, as she described, happy and comfortable. We were not sexist or fighting. It was a basic relationship that I missed to see the signs of oddity. My gut knew, but my brain said wait and see. Now I know and will vet my partners properly after this experience. Oh yep, there it is. She says she thinks all men are trash. So right away she thinks she can outsmart you. She definitely gets a kick out of causing pain. She's a sick person who needs to hurt other people to make herself feel better. Simple as that. I'm sorry, Opus, you definitely deserve better. What do you think? Up next, some serious daddy issues. I might not be my dad's child. I don't know if this is allowed here, but I could really use some advice from this community. Background. My mom, at the very least, was emotionally cheating on my father for at least 25 years. Of my 3 biological siblings, I look odd to the point that an ex of mine said, "You're probably a milkman's baby because my features are so drastically different than my siblings." My mom has always said that it's because I look like my great-grandmother on my grandfather's side. My mom left my dad, blaming him entirely for her misery, in around 2019, saying she regretted all 28 years of their relationship. My dad asked if she regretted having their kids, and she didn't respond. She later invited me out to a lunch date and explained herself to me, telling me things that my dad had previously told me in confidence because he needed someone to talk to since he doesn't have many friends. She lied about trying to get him to go to counseling, lied about having tried to talk things through, lied about warning him when she left him. She was already dating her ex of 30 years prior and lied to us about it. She stayed close friends with him and his son because his wife cheated on him with a very popular musician, celebrity that she left him for and stayed until said celebrity died. During that time, he was living with us and his young son, and my dad was working for months at a time overseas. I know for a fact that they'd often been alone together because his son reached out to me when he found out that our parents had gotten back together and told me that he had a horrible realization that he could remember times where they'd be alone together during that time frame. The divorce process between his parents was vile, to say the least. His mom used the celebrity money to endlessly fight his dad for 100% custody until he was flat out broke and had to give up. I found out that I actually arrived a month late, and that the ex has always thought of me as the daughter he never had, even gave me his first electric guitar. I didn't think about it too much when I was 13 and he gave it to me, but now that I'm an adult, it's so weird that he'd give me his first guitar. Current issue. There are so many red flags that I haven't gotten to, but at a recent doctor's visit, I found out that my blood type was never on file, which could really only happen if my mom hadn't added it to my records when she had me swapped to my current doctor, as they don't have my childhood records. I asked my mom what my blood type was, and she said she didn't know. She never had my blood tested. My mom's blood type is O, meaning that it would be standard practice for my blood to be tested at birth. Another red flag is that my mom banned me from getting my ancestry done. She said it was because my older sister had already done it, and that was good enough, even though siblings can have drastically different DNA profiles. I'm absolutely terrified that I'll find out that my dad isn't really my bio dad. I love him to death, and he's already been through so much in the past 3 years because of my mom. I can't just ask my mom because she'll never give me the truth in every situation. She's always the victim. I want to tell my dad all of this, but he's still having a hard time grappling with the fact that my mom has never been a good person and had been using him since day one for his money. If we find out that my dad isn't my bio dad, should I tell him? I'm worried about how it will affect him since his work has already been turned upside down so many times. And I'm worried that he won't want a relationship with me or resent me. I've been avoiding this for a while, and I'm wondering if I should just bother and leave it as is and not get my blood tested. I'm sorry, Opus. This is some heavy information. You absolutely should tell him. Opus replies, clearly your mother is hiding something. You and your dad have a right to know what your mother has been hiding all these years. It will just solidify the fact that your mother is a horrible person. Update: I have decided that I will be getting my blood tested and my DNA tested on the same day in about a month or two. Time: if the results of the tests come back, and my mom did have more than just an emotional affair like she claims, I will call my dad and inform him ASAP, which may not be as quickly as I get my results, as he's out of the country in a different time zone for work, as he was for most of my parents' relationship. I'm still terrified out of my mind what the possible results could mean for my family, especially for my dad if my suspicions are correct. My dad has been in therapy since before my parents were separated. But I worry that's not enough. Part of me keeps telling me to wait longer to get the test done. But I think if I do this later in life, it'll end up pulling open an old scar and just making a whole new wound. A bit of a rant. I recently found out that my parents' divorce is now finalized as of this year. My mom was dancing around, leading my dad on that she might still change her mind about wanting the divorce for years, which kept him clinging to that hope. I found out more about the things she's done that caused my dad damage, and he still loves her and hangs on to hope that still, one day, she might come back. I know that even though she swears she didn't cheat physically, I'm sure she, at the very least, conspired with her ex that she would leave my dad and get back together with him. The separation and divorce came less than a month after my mom took a trip with her ex to a concert. She swears nothing happened, but she's lied to get her way since I was young. And she keeps singing this tune even though my dad says he believes her and no one has questioned her on it. I pretend I'm not, but I'm so angry and heartbroken. I don't get why she can't just give everyone, including herself, peace of mind and give her family the whole truth so that we can move on. Let's get a reaction from the community. It goes like this: I hope you minimize contact with your mother. She sounds like a terrible human being and doesn't even realize how deep the trauma extends to her children. You will struggle having your own healthy and happy relationships due to how awful your mother was because this is the example you see. No matter how self-aware, subconsciously, it affects you and will cause you to struggle too. The Opus replies, my mom and I have had a rough relationship from the get-go. This is really just the cherry on top. I'll be going no contact with her by the time I have children because she's abusive on a lot of levels. And I don't want her anywhere near my children. She has tried to get me to cheat on and then leave my significant other for someone 6 years older with money. So guess who isn't getting an invite to our wedding next year? It's sad to know that your father still loves your mother despite everything she has done to him. Hopefully, whatever comes from this DNA test will allow you the closure that you need. Update: Hi, it's been a while. A lot has happened in my life since my last update. Things got busier and busier in life. I had to put off the test. And then some really crappy things happened, and then some sweet. I originally intended to get a DNA test, but I chickened out. I just couldn't and can't do it, and I most certainly can't do it now. For the small chance that I'm not his biological child, I can't pull him through that. My dad told me that while digging through an old computer, he came across an old file that couldn't be opened due to the age of it. So he downloaded a program that allowed him to open the file and was surprised to see that there were emails, love letters, poems that she had written to the man she left him for. These files date back to the mid-90 seconds, early 2000 seconds, the time frame between my sister and sometime after my birth. In these letters, he didn't divulge the content directed towards her ex, and honestly, I don't want to know. She's talking about how sterile of a marriage she was in, how my dad didn't actually love her, how she didn't actually love him, wondering why she was with him, that she had to be fake around him, that she couldn't upset him, so she had to pretend to be someone else, that she was miserable and unhappy, that she was staying with him for the kids, etc. My dad is now completely out of love with her, but he is now completely broken. He is not depressive, luckily, but I believe his heart is completely shattered. Me and my siblings' entire childhood, every happy moment we had as a family, is now tainted by the idea that she was miserable the whole time, that everything he thought was happy was actually awful and resented. These letters pretty much confirmed that she was with him for money and stability. And after doing some math, it seems that she and her ex, the man she left him for, had only been broken up for a few months before she and my dad had met. Everything he thought he knew was flipped on its head. Everything about this has reignited a rage in my heart. My dad has already gone through so much. I don't want to put him through further devastation. My dad, after finding these files, printed them and gave them to her in an envelope and attached a letter to it and told her not to speak to nor contact him ever again. He has since started avoiding her like the rotten soul she is. She, as per usual, is pretending nothing happened, that she has done no wrong. I called a friend and talked to him about doing the test. He is my closest friend. I consider him family. He said that knowing me, if I do this test and I found out my dad isn't biologically my dad, that it will destroy me. In the end, it will only cause more pain. He's right. My dad has already been dealt a critical blow. I can't contribute to his pain further. She stole his future and past from him and tainted both. If I get a test just for the sake of knowing, my family will still find out about it, as we are always actively searching for missing family on DNA databases. I don't care about what kind of backlash that woman would get if that news came out. F her. Let her finally suffer the consequences. But I don't think my dad could handle it well. It may not be my place to say that he can't handle it. I don't know if my own heart could take seeing him in more pain. Just thinking about me and my siblings' childhood happy memories is painful enough for him. Well, I know, regardless of if he is, in fact, not my biological father, that at the end of the day, he is still my dad and always will be. I don't want to add that pain onto his heart. I feel it may be selfish of me to not do this test, but I ultimately believe that it is for the best. I do see similarities in his face and mind between his family members and mine. While I do not look at all like my siblings, it's still possible. Not surprising, she is also no longer with the ex and is seeing a new man that she refuses to call her boyfriend, as she is too old to have a boyfriend. I think that woman is completely dead in my heart now for some reason. For years, I've been holding on to this microscopic hope that someday she will redeem herself and be a real mother. That hope is illusional, I know, but it was there, and I think it's finally gone. She's dead to me, but I'm so incredibly angry about how she has completely broken my dad. He didn't deserve any of this pain, and there's nothing I can do about it. In conclusion of all of this, I am his daughter, whether or not he is biologically my dad. I believe that in this world, we choose our family, and genetics do not earn your right to be one's family. Family is who you would shed blood for, and so my blood is fundamentally his blood. I'm hoping that this painful chapter of my life can finally close. I have just had a major life change. My dad is in town helping me. I intend to spend more time with my dad. Hopefully, we can make new memories without her, and his retirement years won't be overshadowed by her and her narcissism. I hope my family can heal. You're absolutely right. Of blood or not, it doesn't matter. He is your father, and he always will be. He raised you, and he loves you. That's all that matters. I'm sorry your mother has put you both through the ringer. Here's to the healing journey ahead. What would you do? Would you have gotten the test? Why or why not? My name is David Lopez, and I am just an ordinary office worker. I lead a pretty boring life, just going back and forth between work and home every day with nothing special to boast about. When I first started working, I dreamt of climbing the corporate ladder, but I'm not good at calculated moves due to my personality, and I often end up being assigned jobs that nobody else wants to take on. My inability to say no becomes my own enemy, and even though I work diligently, I'm still a regular employee with no title to my name. However, there was a time when I used to be a lot happier and smiled more. I got married to my girlfriend, whom I had been dating since the start of my working life. It was a happy married life. It also motivated me to do well in my job. But that happy life didn't last long. Hey, are you telling me to live on this meager amount this month again? A few years into our marriage, my inability to produce results at work frustrated my wife, and she often showed her irritation. I'm sorry, I do my best more. How many years and how many times have you repeated those words? I thought marrying you would mean a better life, but with this low salary, we can't do anything. I'm fed up. My wife, Mary, has always loved spending money on herself. From beauty treatments, cosmetics, nails, and hair salons to clothes, she was a woman whose greatest joy in life was keeping herself beautiful. It seemed she married me, believing that life would be luxurious since I was a doctor's son. Indeed, my dad is a doctor. He owns his own clinic. But my dad, who had a personality similar to mine, used to see his patients for almost charitable rates and often provided care without any profit for patients who were hesitant to seek treatment due to financial constraints. People can pay back when they recall it in the future, as long as they are alive to do so. Money can't be generated if you are not alive, my dad used to say. Due to this, despite being a doctor's family, we never lived a wealthy life. Of course, as a child, I never felt dissatisfied or doubted this way of living, and I'm still proud of my dad to this day. However, Mary decided to marry me, categorizing me as a doctor's son without knowing this background. So it turned out to be a completely different life than she had planned. And a few years later, I've had enough. If this is all we can do, there's no point in being with you. Let's get a divorce. A divorce. Hold on, please. How many years do you think I've waited? I age just as much as you do. I need to redo my life while I still can. I definitely don't want to be a low-income wife like you for the rest of my life. With those harsh words, Mary left, leaving only the divorce papers behind. I was mad at myself for not realizing Mary's true nature and for not being able to prove her wrong with my job performance. 5 years have passed since then. I threw myself into work to heal the emotional wounds. But being not savvy, I still couldn't achieve outstanding performance at work, remaining a regular employee. If this continues, what Mary said would turn out to be true. I feel utterly miserable. During that time, an envelope arrived in my mailbox from Mary. What does she want now? Inside the letter from my ex-wife Mary, who I hadn't heard from in a long time, was a wedding invitation. It seems that Mary is remarrying someone else. Why would my ex-wife send me an invitation? Puzzled, I looked at the postcard and noticed a familiar chapel name written on it. Isn't this place a super luxurious hotel? Knowing Mary, she must have chosen a rich man to be her partner this time as well. I could easily guess that she intended to flaunt her happiness at a luxurious hotel wedding just to rub it and show the difference between her life now and the life she had with me. I don't owe her to attend. I mean, I was the one who got dumped. But maybe, for Mary as well, my not succeeding in my job was an unexpected turn of events. After pondering for a while, I sighed deeply and stood up from my seat. This is the last time, I guess. I'll just go. I knew attending the wedding would shatter my pride, but I decided to go anyway. Despite that, Mary was willing to stay by my side for several years. Even though she had to put up with me, I can somewhat understand her desire to show me that she's finally happy as a form of revenge. From an outsider's perspective, she might seem too kind-hearted. Nevertheless, I chose to attend her wedding. On the day of the wedding, we were blessed with perfect weather. I arrived a bit earlier than planned, and while sipping on my coffee in the lounge, I stared blankly out of the window. It was indeed her second wedding, so I recognized a few of Mary's friends who I had been introduced to before. Unexpectedly, I overheard a conversation from the seat next to me. After all, Mary did an amazing job to get this wedding, didn't she? Yeah, it's in a luxury hotel this time. It's a level up from the first one. Yeah, she used to complain that her first husband was a doctor's son. But when she opened the lid, he was just an ordinary office worker without money. It's really unexpected, isn't it? Hearing them talk without realizing my presence, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. So, Mary never really liked me for who I was. I realized that when we got divorced, but hearing it from someone else's mouth makes it even harder. Before she divorced her first husband, she had already set her sights on her current husband. I heard them say, "Really well done, Mary. Well calculated." I couldn't believe my ears. So, that means Mary was already in a relationship with her current partner before she even divorced me. My pride was shattered to pieces. She looked down on me so much, but she was the one cheating. I started to regret even being here, trying to maintain composure. I took another sip of my coffee, but my hand was shaking. Mary appeared in front of me, all prepared to move to the bridal room. "You really came. You're really a good person, right?" she said, sneering at me. With a sigh, trying to hold back my madness, I responded, "Well, consider it my last duty. Glad you could find happiness." I forced a smile. Not liking my attitude, Mary continued to belittle me. "Isn't it wonderful? It's incomparable to the time with you. Here's a share of happiness for the poor bachelor. Be grateful, will you?" She laughed sarcastically. Just then, a refreshing-looking man spoke to her from behind. It was the groom, her new husband. "Mary, it seems like the relatives have gathered. Let's hurry to the bridal room." Her husband Richard glanced at me briefly and gave a slight nod. I reflexively nodded back. Perhaps the groom was unaware that Mary had invited her ex-husband to the wedding. "There's still some time before the ceremony, so please make yourself comfortable," Richard said with a pleasant smile as they were about to pass by me. At that moment, an older man following the groom spoke to me. "Excuse me for asking, but may I have your name?" "Dad, what's wrong? A number? Just curious." Feeling uneasy under the groom's dad's serious gaze, I responded, "My name is David Lopez." "Lopes, is your father a doctor by any chance?" The groom's dad suddenly seemed frantic, staggering a bit under his intense presence. I nodded to his question. Immediately, the color drained from the groom's dad's face, and suddenly, he raised his voice. "Richard, the wedding is off, right now." What are you talking about, Dad? What did you just say?" Caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events, I hurriedly stood up from my seat. "No, I didn't do anything." While I was still in a state of panic, the groom's dad began to prostrate himself at my feet. People around the venue started to murmur and stir. "Dad, what are you doing?" "No, really, what even?" As the groom urged his dad to lift his head, he stayed bowed down, pressing his forehead to the floor. Without changing his posture, I was completely lost and had no idea what was going on. Mary, caught in this embarrassing situation, turned red with anger and started to lash out. "Can we just talk about this? Lift your head, please." Trying to calm the situation, I persuaded the groom's dad to lift his head, and he began to plead for forgiveness, tears in his eyes. "I'm begging for your forgiveness. I've been unfaithful to Dr. Lopes." It seemed that the groom's dad, Charles, had some past connection with my dad. To understand the truth, I listened intently to Charles's words as he began to speak hesitantly. The groom's dad, Charles, was a fellow doctor like my dad. The story dates back to my early childhood when Charles was still a trainee doctor at the hospital. My dad had just started his own medical practice. My dad was recognized for his skills at a renowned university hospital, and Charles, who was attending the Associated Medical School, looked up to him. He volunteered to train at my dad's hospital and learn various techniques. One day, Charles's wife gave birth. However, the baby was found to have a congenital heart defect. The heart surgery required for the baby was risky, and the chances of survival were slim, which made the other doctors reluctant to perform the operation. Desperate, Charles consulted my dad. My dad agreed to help and perform the heart surgery on the baby, saving the baby's life safely. However, the medical expenses for the baby's heart condition were substantial. Back in the day, Charles, who was a trainee doctor at the time, didn't have the means to pay it all back at once, with tears streaming down his face. He bowed deeply and asked my dad if he could repay the amount in installments. My dad just laughed, shook his head. "Someday, when you become a great doctor and have the time to remember me, come back and repay me. Then I guarantee you'll definitely become a great doctor," he said, to keep Charles from feeling too pressured. Sometime after, Charles was sent abroad to study medicine and didn't return to the States for several years. Despite this, he never forgot his promise to my dad and continued to save money for the repayment. However, by the time he came back to the States, my dad's hospital was no longer there. The contact information had changed, and they had lost touch. The fact that he couldn't repay the money had always weighed heavily on his heart, and he had lived all those years without being able to do anything about it. And today, he happened to see me at the hotel and was shocked. He said I looked just like my dad used to. "I'm truly sorry. Please, I'm begging you, let me meet your dad in person and apologize to him." Feeling Charles's intense emotions, I responded calmly, "That sounds just like something my dad would do. But my dad has already passed away." Hearing the news about someone from his past, Charles stood there in a daze. No way, he passed away from cancer just like that, 3 years ago. Until then, he had been moving from one clinic to another. He was a wonderful doctor, always considering his patients until the very end. Kneeling on the floor, Charles broke down in tears. "Dad, this isn't the place. Richard, that scar on your chest. That's proof that Dr. Lopes saved your life." Richard seemed to lose his words. "You're able to have a wedding ceremony and be here today, all thanks to Dr. Lopes." Charles bowed to me again and said, "I want to repay all the kindness that I couldn't repay to your dad, please." In a hurry, I lifted Charles's face and extended my hand to help him stand up. "Mr. Charles, I'm really happy. Just remembering my dad is enough for me. The life my dad saved is now able to celebrate such a wonderful day like today. Being able to come in contact with the proof of my dad's existence makes me happy. I'm sure my dad would be happy too." Hearing my words, Charles started crying out loud again. While there were cheers and applause from the onlookers, Mary was the only one glaring at me with a look of fury. Eventually, the time for the ceremony to start drew near, and the ceremony was held as scheduled. I had undergone an unexpected experience, and my wounded heart had changed to feelings of pride and brightness. Afterwards, Charles insisted on repaying the medical expenses and the kindness my dad had shown, and I ended up receiving a substantial amount of money that he had saved for my dad. Furthermore, Charles's hospital started doing business with my company, which significantly boosted my performance, and I finally got promoted. The kindness and compassion my dad had shown had come back to me in such a way. I cherished the happiness while recalling the serious look in my dad's eyes when he was working. And as for Mary, although she was enjoying her second marriage, her husband found out that she had dated me before our divorce and that both her previous and current marriages were motivated by money. Eventually, he grew tired of her, leading to another divorce. I heard about it through the grapevine. What goes around, comes around. Like my dad, I live my life believing that even if something doesn't benefit me directly, it could still contribute to someone else's happiness. Today, again, I saw someone smile. Just that fact alone assures me that my life is definitely heading in the right direction. Monica screamed in fright when she saw me and immediately covered her naked body with a blanket. Denny also turned around, his eyes opened wide, his hands hurriedly gathering clothes scattered all over the bedroom, but a vase flying past his head did not allow him to do that. The man in his underwear jumped out of the open window and ran to his car. My wooden bat flew after him and hit the headlight, breaking it. The car drove quickly away from my yard, disappearing among the narrow streets. All this happened within 1 minute. Yes, you understood correctly. I just caught my wife cheating in our house, in our bedroom, in our bed, and I just came home to change clothes because I got very dirty at work. My new colleague, a young and cute girl, was extremely clumsy. She was carrying several cups of coffee and tripped over her foot. The hot drink spilled on me, smearing my shirt and pants. My boss saw this and was an understanding woman, so she offered me to go home and change my clothes. Under Monica's plaintive crying and excuses, I went to the closet and started changing. I deliberately did not react to her words. It seemed that if I talked to her, all the anger inside me would explode. I could do something illegal and violent towards her. It takes all the willpower to maintain outward calmness. The maximum I could do was tell her to pack up and leave before I returned from work. I left the house, got into the car, and drove to work. My condition showed that something had happened because my colleagues began asking about my health. They said I looked like I had just returned from a war. Well, it wasn't far from the truth. There was a real war going on inside me. Until the end of the workday, I just sat in front of the computer monitor, not reacting to what was happening around me. I only wanted to go to a bar and get drunk with my best friend. That's exactly what I did immediately after work. I called my friend and asked him to meet me at a bar near my house. Probably. My tone made it clear that something was wrong because he agreed to come over soon without further question. Now, I vaguely remember that evening. We drank a lot of whiskey and beer and talked about my divorce from Monica. My best friend helped me catch a taxi and walked me to the doors of my house. Now, this house looked different from a cozy and homely shelter. It became too quiet and empty. There were only my shoes in the hallway. The bedroom looked neat, as if nothing had happened there. The closets, chests of drawers, bathroom, and even the kitchen were empty. Monica took all her stuff, even her potted plants were gone somewhere. It felt like someone had just moved into this house and hadn't finished settling in yet. I couldn't stay calm in the bedroom. Now, it's the most hated, disgusting room for me, so I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. In the morning, my head was hurting terribly. It seemed it was about to split into pieces from the hellish, pulsating pain. I peeled my eyes open with difficulty and looked around. The sunlight coming through the undrawn curtains hurt my eyes. I sat on the couch, and the room started spinning. Nausea rose in my throat. I barely managed to run to the bathroom, where I threw up the remnants of yesterday's drinking. The hangover weighed on me like a truck. My head was buzzing, my mouth was dry, and my stomach cramped. With difficulty, I forced myself to take a shower, brush my teeth, shave, and get dressed. Every movement was incredibly hard for me. Finally, I returned to the living room and collapsed on the couch. I needed to get ready for work, but the thought alone made everything dark before my eyes. I couldn't imagine functioning in this state. I lazily reached for the phone to call my boss and warn her I wouldn't come in today. However, my gaze fell on Monica's photo on the nightstand. The memories of yesterday hit me hard. Hatred and disappointment overwhelmed me with new force. I barely suppressed those emotions. The main thing now is to survive this hellish workday. I'll see what happens next. Despite the bad hangover, I decided to go to work. I felt even worse in the empty house full of memories of Monica, so I wanted to switch my attention to other tasks and change the scenery. My colleagues immediately noticed my detached state. They joked that I overindulged with alcohol last night. I couldn't take it anymore and told them the truth. How I caught Monica with her lover. How he jumped out the window. How my wife left the house. My colleagues were horrified and involuntarily cursed my wife. Well, indeed, my situation could only be described with obscene language. They expressed sincere sympathy and support. Their compassion touched me. At least here, I was understood and not judged. It gave me the strength to survive the rest of the workday, even though I could barely think straight and couldn't focus on simple tasks because of the hangover. After work, that same clumsy girl offered me coffee and a little talk. She asked what I was planning to do now. I decided to divorce Monica. This marriage no longer made sense to me. In the next few days, I will go to a lawyer's consultation to learn about the legal details of divorce and protect my rights as best I can. I was also very worried about our children with Monica. They are only 5 and 7 years old. It will be hard for them to endure their parents' divorce. I wanted to give them as much attention as possible, take them to parks, movies, and zoos, in short, do everything to make them feel needed and loved during this difficult time. Besides, in case of a divorce, I wanted to fight for custody of the children. I felt that Monica couldn't care for them properly after finding a lover. I didn't like the children to grow up in a dysfunctional environment. Their safety and comfort was my top priority overall. Despite the shock and pain of betrayal, I was determined. The main thing is to go through the divorce with dignity and minimize losses for the children, and life will get better in time. After talking to my colleague, I decided to call my parents. Our children were staying with them on vacation. I bluntly announced that I caught Monica cheating and was planning a divorce. My parents were shocked. They had no idea there were problems in our relationship. Despite the shock, they promised to care for the grandchildren for as long as needed. "Don't worry, son," my mom said. "Leave the kids with us for as long as you need. You're going through tough times right now, and your dad and I will be happy to spend more time with our grandchildren. You know how much we love them." My dad also expressed support. What an atrocity on Monica's part. I would have never thought so, but you're doing the right thing getting divorced. And don't worry about the kids, they'll be fine with us. I felt relieved. At least I didn't have to worry about the kids for now. Meanwhile, I could focus on the divorce proceedings and restoring my mental balance after these events. Incidentally, this difficult day was the first time I even looked at my phone. After calling my parents, I saw dozens of missed calls and texts from my wife. Monica was probably trying to justify herself, begging for forgiveness or cursing in response. But I didn't care. I didn't even read those messages. I deleted everything without looking. Instead, I asked my acquaintances if they had contacts of a good divorce lawyer. One friend gave me the number of an excellent specialist his sister went to. I immediately called that lawyer. Luckily, he was available the next day. We agreed to meet and discuss everything. I felt confident that this experienced attorney would help me properly handle the divorce and defend my interests. However, the lawyer cooled my ardor. I had no right to kick Monica out of our common home. That was considered a legal eviction of a spouse, and she could easily sue me for that. Moreover, Monica was fully entitled to return home at any time and demanded that I continue living with her in marriage until the official divorce. In the current situation, the law was clearly on her side. If she does sue me, it would greatly complicate the whole divorce process and reduce my chances of getting custody of the children in the future. I was horrified by this news, so I'm powerless to do anything against Monica. I'll have to endure her presence in my own home for a long time and also risk losing my children because of her potential lawsuit. It felt like a nightmare. All my determination vanished in an instant. In your situation, it's very likely that Monica will get custody and you'll pay alimony. Our objective now is to minimize your losses after the divorce, said the lawyer. On the one hand, now I know my legal prospects and options regarding the divorce. That was useful to understand further steps. The lawyer competently answered all my questions. On the other hand, some things burdened and scared me, especially that Monica could return home at any moment. I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, or she could significantly complicate my getting custody of the children. I felt relieved that I now knew all the nuances of the divorce process, but at the same time, I felt anxious and annoyed by my helplessness. I was also worried about the future fate of the children. This mixture of conflicting emotions made me feel on edge one minute and slightly calmer the next. I walked down the street, absorbed in my thoughts and worries. I had difficult decisions about how to proceed in such an uncertain situation. Over the next few days, I tried to keep it together and not lose my mind over the uncertainty. Monica kept calling me, but I stubbornly didn't pick up. At the same time, I expected her to show up at the door with suitcases every day. On Friday, I picked the kids up from my parents to spend the weekend with them. On Saturday, we went together to our favorite pizzeria and played bowling. The children were delighted. We had a great time. Everything was fine for a moment, just a dad with his kids spending a carefree day. However, closer to evening, the doorbell suddenly rang unexpectedly when the kids and I were watching a cartoon before bed. I froze, realizing it was Monica. The kids happily screamed, "Mom came," and rushed to meet her. She stood at the door with a huge suitcase and several bags. The guilty smile on her face said it all. "Hi, can I come in? After all, this is still my house, too." The perfect day collapsed in an instant. When the children went to their rooms and fell asleep, Monica tried to talk to me, but I nipped all her attempts in the bud. I didn't want to talk about anything. All I said coldly was, "I need to go to bed. I have work tomorrow," after which I started preparing my sleeping place on the couch in the living room. In the morning, I woke up to a noise in the kitchen. Monica was making breakfast for the whole family as if nothing had happened. When I entered the room, she smiled warmly. "Good morning. I made pancakes, your favorite. The kids already ate and went to get ready for school. Sit down, let's have breakfast." She hoped to establish contact and talk to me with such homemaking gestures, but I had no appetite. I silently poured myself some coffee, took a sip, and put the cup in the sink. "I have to get to work," I grumbled, heading for the exit. Monica's whole family breakfast just disgusted me. I wasn't ready to talk to her, maybe later. When I returned from work that evening, my wife approached me again. Her eyes were red from crying. "Listen, I know you don't want to talk to me right now, but sooner or later, we'll have to do it," she sobbed. Before continuing, "I didn't mean to betray you. That night, we had a little too much to drink with colleagues after work, and Denny gave me a ride home, and somehow it just happened. I swear, it was only once. I regret it. Let's try to preserve the family for the children's sake." However, her excuses only made me angrier. Impaired judgment indeed. It was more like she just decided to misbehave at my expense. "I don't know what happened with you and how many times," I replied coldly, "but either way, I'm filing for divorce. Our relationship is over. Now excuse me, I need to rest after a working day." I turned to go to the bathroom and take a shower. I had no desire to listen to her pathetic excuses. The days before the divorce hearing were pure hell for me. I went to work like a zombie, operating on autopilot. My boss even offered me a paid leave so I could deal with family issues. But I refused because sitting at home would be even worse than just numbly functioning at work. That's where I least wanted to be. I only came home because of the kids. It was worth enduring for their sake. As for Monica, she was trying to appease me before the divorce. She cooked my favorite dishes, kept the house spotless, spoke to me gently, and tried not to bother me unnecessarily. A couple of times, she even tried to seduce me physically. But her reconciliation attempts only angered me more. I didn't want anything from her except for this nightmare called divorce to end as soon as possible. Of course, the kids noticed that their parents had been acting strange lately. I was gloomy and pensive, constantly distracted from all conversations. Monica was also not at all like herself, quiet and sad. The children were worried. They didn't understand what was happening with Mom and Dad. One day, my son asked me, "Dad, has something happened between you and Mom? You argue all the time, my sister and I are concerned." I decided to talk honestly with the kids and explain the situation in terms they could understand. I gently informed them that their mom and I no longer love each other like we used to and that soon we will stop being husband and wife, meaning we'll get a divorce. They were upset by this news, but I assured them that we would continue to love and spend time with them, just living separately now. I promised they could always count on my support and care, no matter what. This reassured the kids a little. Monica kept desperately trying to regain my affection. She kept apologizing, begging me to give her a chance to regain my trust. But I only felt irritated. It seemed she didn't want to accept reality. Our relationship was over. I decided to take an indirect approach to make her understand. "All right," I said. "If you really regret it and want to regain my trust, you'll have to do something first. Take a lie detector test to answer all my questions honestly. Second, get tested for sexually transmitted infections to rule out any contagion. If the results come back negative, I may be able to forgive you, but not before." I understood these conditions would sound humiliating to her. I wasn't interested in the lie detector or test results. Still, I needed Monica to realize the gravity of the situation and the consequences of her actions and see how much she had betrayed my trust in her. Maybe then she would finally back off and stop clinging to our dead relationship. To my surprise, my wife agreed to these terms. She kept delaying the lie detector, apparently fearing uncomfortable questions, but she immediately got tested for infections, being confident of a negative result. However, an unpleasant surprise awaited her a few days later. The results showed that Monica had tested positive for HIV. I was shocked by the news. In a panic, I immediately got tested, too. Those were the most stressful days of my life as I awaited results. Thankfully, my indicators came back clean. Despite my wife's infidelity, I had avoided infection. But I now had the opportunity for a special revenge I just had to take advantage of. I knew Denny was Monica's colleague and worked with her in the same office. I understood what a commotion it would cause if it turned out colleagues were having intimate relations and transmitting a dangerous infection to each other. Moreover, there was a risk Monica and Denny had slept with each other and with other subordinates. Getting them fired and subsequently disgraced would be the perfect revenge. After receiving Monica's test results, I scheduled a meeting with the head of the company where my wife worked, explaining the urgency of the matter beforehand to his secretary. At the meeting, I relayed the situation. Monica had cheated on me with her colleague Denny, possibly right in the office, violating corporate ethics. As a result, she had contracted HIV. I demanded they immediately fire her and Denny since their irresponsible behavior could jeopardize the health of all other employees. I reminded the manager that by law, the employer bears responsibility for the health and safety of employees. I described the scale of damage if these two had infected others. In this case, the employer had legal grounds to terminate my wife and her lover to ensure the safety of the remaining staff and visitors. The gravity of it quickly dawned on the manager. He promised to investigate and take necessary action within his authority and current legislation. After such news, he would have no choice but to fire Monica and Denny and demand all employees undergo mandatory HIV testing. When Monica found out about her dismissal, she furiously attacked me. "It was you who lied to them, wasn't it? You accused me of things that never happened. In reality, you were the one cheating on me all these years, and you infected me with HIV. But now you're framing me as the guilty one," she yelled. I just bitterly smirked at these delusional accusations. Of course, it was just a desperate attempt at manipulation on her part. After all, according to my tests, I'm completely healthy and could not have transmitted HIV to her in any way. However, the mandatory HIV testing conducted at Monica's company revealed a grim picture. In addition to my wife and Denny, several other employees had also tested positive. It looked like there were some promiscuous sexual relations between colleagues there, and Monica was far from the only victim of that debauched atmosphere. Thanks to this situation, I now had a real chance of getting custody of our children. According to my lawyer, unlike Monica, I could now prove that I was a healthy and responsible parent. I don't have HIV or other diseases. My wife led a moral and chaotic lifestyle, as evidenced by her workplace behavior, and could influence the children badly. Due to her illness, Monica would not be able to fully care for and provide for the kids, especially now that she was unemployed. I was financially stable and could give the children everything they needed. Thus, if my lawyer and I substantiated all these points in court, I would have every reason to get full custody of the children after the divorce from Monica. Divorce is like entering a new reality where you look at your life with a clean slate. Fortunately, after all that legal tangle, I became a real single parent with 2 kids. Finally, the nightmare was over. I could breathe freely again. I had to sell our house to divide assets with my ex-wife. I temporarily moved in with my parents and the kids while I saved up enough money to buy my own house or decide to take out a loan. My parents' support was invaluable, especially when I went to work. Someone had to look after the children in my absence. Work became my island of safety and stability in this sea of change. My boss knew about the difficult family situation, so she sometimes cut me some slack, allowing me to leave work early. I turned down vacation time because I wanted to find a new home or apartment as soon as possible to get settled so my kids could live comfortably. Gradually, everything fell into place. Calm returned to my life, not my ex-wife's. Finding herself in dire straits, Monica sued Denny for deliberate HIV infection. Fear and anxiety staring reality in the face. That's what she was experiencing now. Her life became like a picture torn to pieces. Every trial was like a blow to her emotional state. Under stress and uncertainty about the future, Monica lost weight. Her eyes reflected fatigue and melancholy. I used to be used to seeing joy on her face, but now it was the shadow of a past life. The lack of peace and the storm of emotions took their toll on her appearance. The sparkle in her eyes faded, and her skin lost its freshness. When she came to visit the children, it was clear she wasn't paying proper attention to herself. Her hair was lifeless, and her clothes didn't fit as well. She seemed to have forgotten how important it is to care for herself. My parents, having noticed these changes, expressed concern about her condition. But she seemed to have retreated far into her inner world, consumed by legal troubles and struggles. Time was not kind to her, and stress left its mark on her appearance, underlining how difficult her days had become. Monica tried to see the kids, but these were usually brief visits. She lacked the strength and resources for regular interaction. Talking about how she would care for the children now sounded like empty promises. I understood she could not provide the care they needed. The lawsuits and her fight for her rights had consumed her so much that she could not fully be present in the children's lives. My parents became a reliable pillar of support for the grandchildren in the absence of maternal care while I was building our new life. My ex-wife was getting entangled in the maze of lawsuits and her difficulties. The divorce revealed our disagreements and Monica's inability to perform the role of caring mother fully. Life after divorce is taking many small steps. First, you dive into a storm of emotions. Then gradually come to realism, a new apartment, new routines, new responsibilities. But somewhere along the way, you realize you're okay, can handle it, and are not alone in this swim. Family, children, they are your foothold. So, I move forward, taking little steps in my new life, rebuilding it anew. Diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? Not always. Whoever asks you for fancy, shiny things while you're doing the very best you can, maybe doesn't always have your best interest at heart. Today on our space, college sweethearts turn first story sour. Wife left me for a rich older man and later came back begging for reconciliation. I, 25 male, met my wife Brenda, 25 female, in college when we were still in our early 22nd. We hit it off during our college second year. After dating for 3 years, we decided to marry. Our parents cautioned us not to make a hasty decision because we were just out of college, and I was not making much. Brenda had also just started her career and was not making much. I told Brenda that for the initial years, we would be living paycheck to paycheck. She said she was fine with it and assured me to work hard to make this work for us. A few months went very well, with both of us working to meet our needs. Life was smooth and easy for both of us. We both worked in the day, and the evenings would be all ours. Both of us made sure to spend that time well. We planned small things, or we just talked about our days. And it never got monotonous or boring for me. We earned less, but we were happy and satisfied with that. At least, I am. And clearly, she isn't. A year later, just after the first anniversary, money problems started creeping in. I didn't plan the anniversary as fancy as she wanted. She wanted diamonds, and I gave her a decent watch. I did whatever I could within my means and my planning ability. I agree I'm not a good planner, but she knows me better than anyone else. Instead of spending the money on outings, flowers, and food, I could have given her diamonds, but I felt memories mattered more than materialistic things. But for her, she wanted it all. I reminded her that our current financial condition doesn't allow us to have it all. After that incident, Brenda decided to work harder to make up for the financial deficiencies. I understood that deep down, she missed the luxuries she had dreamt about in her marriage. She was very vocal about it and never hid this from me. She wanted a good life, and there's no harm in that. I promised her that eventually, we would reach that level of financial state, but it takes time. You don't become rich overnight doing the right thing. but I think she's growing impatient. Brenda herself was ambitious as well as determined, and she started finding out ways and methods to make the financial condition better. She took more freelance work and gave in extra time whenever she could. Her only aim now is to make as much money as she could to fulfill all her dreams. She also enrolled in some new courses to get better paying job opportunities. I also tried my best to put in extra hours and earn more. With the months passing by, Brenda's desire for a luxurious life is driving her restless. But even after all these efforts, the difficulties remained. The only thing that happened with this struggle was the suffering. We both met in a relationship. This financial instability and Brenda's discontentment are leading to a lot of arguments between us. Brenda is finding it impossible to live with me, and she has said it to my face a lot of times. I can see that Brenda is tiring herself more than she should have, and she's compelling me to do the same. She's always exhausted by the end of the day, and it has made her very frustrated and irritable. We are not getting to spend any quality time together. I'm not happy with what is going on, but I have no other choice. As for me, I'm also managing 2 jobs to meet her demands, but the constant pressure of the finances made me frustrated, keeping my mind in a constant working mode to work out how to do better than what I'm doing. Sometimes I consider myself a failure, not being able to put up with the demands of the one person I love the most. I want to give her the best, and I'm failing in it. The constant pressure is hitting me hard. It is making me question my self-worth. If I'm not enough for her, she wanted a good life. But what constitutes a good life? Does it always have to involve materialistic things? Why can't a good life mean being happy, healthy, and abundant in love? I guess it's nice to own things. But what good is a life surrounded by nice things when it just sort of alienates you? Update 1. I should have seen this coming, but I thought just to be a financial problem came out to be a lot bigger. I never anticipated that my college love would do something like this. So, our hectic life continued for a few more months. Brenda had engrossed herself in the various jobs she had been appointed to. Things seemed to have settled between us, and things started looking brighter for us. Brenda earned quite well from her side hustles. I urged her to use that money to fulfill all her desires while I took care of the household expenses all by myself. To my amazement, Brenda was often seen in fancy dresses and accessories, happy most of the time. And all I thought this was due to her earnings, until the truth unfolded. Though she came home late, I never found her tired or lethargic. Rather, she seemed enthusiastic and more energetic for the next day. I was glad for the good tidings her busy schedule had caused. She would give me limited but wholesome time. This routine followed for a few weeks, but then something strange happened. On her return home from work one day, she was agitated. She went to bed straight and dozed off. This continued for more than a week, when it was bothering me. Whenever I asked her the reason, she would snap at me or said that she was tired of working so many hours. I told her to let herself free and get rid of the extra work. But this topic always turned into a heated argument, so I tried to avoid it. The best I could do was make her coffee and dinner and let her be in her space. I was upset, as I was now living with a machine rather than a person, a machine that worked from 8 in the morning to 10 or 11 at night. She hardly said hi or bye to me, and that's it. I was lacking her time and love. For me, money was never a priority, but for her, it was all she needed. After a lot of struggle, I made myself understand this bitter truth and learned to live with this. It was Friday, and I was running late due to additional work at the office. I texted her that I would be late. My message was left on read without any reply. I reached home around 10. Hoping she would have returned by now, but there was no sign of her. I thought she went out with friends. I didn't bother her by calling or texting because she rarely goes out. I was too tired to make dinner and dozed off on the couch waiting for her. When I woke up, it was almost midnight. I called her, but she didn't respond, and after a while, her phone was out of reach. I thought her phone had drained off. I tried her for a few more times, and in the tiredness, I dozed off again. The next morning, I got up feeling very hungry because I hadn't eaten anything since the last day's lunch. I went to the kitchen, normally looking for something to eat. My eyes fell upon a neatly folded piece of paper on the kitchen counter. When I unfolded the paper, I was shocked to see what was in my hands. It was a handwritten note from Brenda. This letter alone was enough to smash my being. Brenda had decided to leave me. The note said she found an actual man who could afford her lifestyle. The truth was bitter. The moment was so tormenting and painful that it is hard to describe. The reality seemed to haunt me. I was left shocked and jolted. I didn't know what to do or how to process this out of shock. I called Brenda's parents to ask them if they knew about her whereabouts. They denied knowing anything. I was so confused. I didn't tell them anything and hung up. My emotions choked me, and I called my friend and fumbled about my misery. He ran to my place because I sounded distraught. My condition for the next few days and a few weeks is hard to describe. I barely made it out of bed, just laid there doing nothing. I left all the other side hustles except for my full-time job because now none of it made sense. None of it was worth it. My friends and family tried to console me, My friends visited me every other day. Nights were the hardest. Eventually, I enrolled in therapy and threw myself into my work completely to avoid the thoughts about Brenda and my marriage. I worked as a distraction, as it left me no time to get sad. I was drained in all ways, but I kept exhausting myself more. With the passage of time, I began to accept my new reality. It was not easy, but I'm proud to be able to come out strong. On the journey from heartbreak to healing. It's been 4 months now since she abandoned me, and I'm yet to heal completely. But I've accepted my reality and am moving ahead in life. I'm so sorry. Opus, that's a huge kick to the groin. There's no rush in healing. Healing, like grief, is different for everyone. Please don't think you did anything wrong. You didn't. You did everything right. You were the perfect, supportive, loving husband that any woman would dream of. Update 2. Life has been so weird in the last few years that I almost forgot about this thread. After Brenda left me, it took me many months to heal. It wasn't easy. More than a year later to the D-Day, I happened to meet Alice. She was a new recruit to the office, a simple yet elegant, hardworking, enthusiastic young lady. She was a quiet being and was often seen sitting lonely in her cabin even in her free time. Her nature intrigued me. I don't know why, but I was pushed to go ahead and ask her out for coffee. She declined my offer and told me that she would like to not be bothered. She had rejected me in a confident yet respectable manner. I honored her more after that, but I didn't dare to ask her anything after that. I wasn't hitting on her. I just wanted to speak to her or maybe know her, but once she denied, I never tried again. We talked only regarding work stuff, if at all. A few months later, there was some team-building activity in the office where I and Alice were appointed from our respective teams. This gave us a chance to interact. Gradually, we became friends and opened up personal discussions. She told me about the betrayal she had received from her husband, the sole reason for her loneliness. Her husband left her for his young secretary. We realized we were both inflicted with the same trauma. We connected over our ugly past and broken hearts. Eventually, we started meeting outside the office. I felt comfortable in her company. Alice was a different girl. She understood me better. She was way more mature than my ex-wife. Though we connected over a similar past, we didn't want that to be the sole reason for our relationship. We wanted love to be the foundation of our relationship. Alice suggested couple counseling, so we took no baggage with us into our new life. We took sessions together. It has helped us to address our insecurities that had been due to the past. We took our own sweet time getting to know each other and falling in love. After being together for 2 years, I asked her out for marriage. It wasn't that I asked her out. We both knew that we wanted that, but I made the move and officially asked her to marry me. The engagement was 6 months ago. We delayed the wedding for a while as I wanted to work on my promotion first, which was due in a few months. Alice was a supportive fiancé, and she was ready to wait for me. My experience had left some insecurities, and I didn't want to lose a gem once again due to financial constraints. Alice had assured me that she was not of that type, but I didn't want to risk the chance. Last month, I got the promotion I was overdue, and it was a big day for me. Alice and I celebrated it with friends and family, and that's when we announced our wedding, which is due in 2 months. I wanted to have it immediately, but Alice suggested that we take our time for preparation and not rush into things. Since then, Alice has been busy planning for our big day bit by bit. She took up the responsibility as I'm not so good at planning stuff. Besides, she is street smart. She knows where to find the best deal in the city. It was also fun prepping for the wedding and enjoying the courtship period with Alice. But little did I know, the past was about to resurface in a way I had never expected. A few days back, Brenda reappeared in my life. However, it was not the same person. She looked miserable and shattered. It was a Sunday morning. Again, I woke up to a knock on the door. To my least expectation, there stood Brenda. It took me a while to realize it was her. I was shocked and rather upset about her sudden visit. Brenda was standing there with a sense of humility and regret. She asked me if she could come inside, and we could sit and talk. I didn't quite remember if I said yes. The entire episode with her seemed like a hazy dream. The next I remember, I was sitting on the couch opposite to her and staring at her as if she was a ghost. She indeed looked like a ghost. I mean, she looked miserable. Clearly, she hadn't been treated well. I had never seen Brenda in such a state before. He started crying bitterly and told me that she had made a huge mistake of leaving me. The man for whom she left me was nothing but a fraud. He gave her everything she wanted but respect. He treated her like trash. She liked her new life for a couple of years. She had everything: cars, clothes, accessories, exotic foreign holidays, and whatnot. But soon, she realized that the man was a cheater. He laid his hands on every other woman he met, right from his secretary to his business partner to his house attendants. When Brenda got to know the reality, it was too late. Also, she realized that their relationship was not like a normal one where she could boss him around or school him for his mistakes. He treated her no less than an inanimate object he was providing for. She was not even that close to him that she could fight with him regarding his infidelity. She just had to stay there and witness everything he did. He was a rich man in his 50s with generational wealth. What else do you expect from him? I'm not generalizing everyone, but this is how Brenda described him to be. She had bruises on her neck and hand. I asked her if that was her rich man's gift. She started crying harder and said yes. She said whenever she complained about his behaviors, he was hitting her. She said he was done living like a prisoner and had fled from his mansion some time ago. She said she wanted to stay alone and heal herself, but she had nowhere to go, and she also got to know from her family that I was remarrying Alice. Hence, she rushed to me before it was too late, as if she was not late yet. I told her that she was already very late. In fact, she closed the door of her return the moment she decided to abandon me. She begged for forgiveness and said she was a fool to run after money and not understand the value of true love. To be honest, I struggled with conflicting emotions. For a moment, I had loved this woman so dearly in the past. Deep down, the part of me that had once loved Brenda so deeply was not able to ignore the regret with which she had returned. I sat there patiently listening to what she had to say. I had just moved on and was building my new life with Alice, the woman who loved me and who had helped me heal. I cannot betray her for Brenda, who was nothing but flaky and self-centered. I asked Brenda to leave because I had to step out for a meeting with the wedding planner. She cried and held my hand, asking me for one last chance. I said I was not in a state to talk to her. She had damaged me very brutally when she ghosted me, and now she again shattered my being by mere reappearing in my life. Her presence annoyed me so much that I got up and went outside of the house, asking her to leave. She ultimately left. I slammed the door behind her. Her sudden visit brought back the memories of the past. But I was more concerned about confronting this to Alice. She wasn't in town. She went to spend a few days with her grandparents. I called her immediately. Maybe it was my guilt, but we couldn't talk much. She had network disturbances in her ancestral house. We spoke a few times after that day, but I didn't dare bring up this topic. I don't intend to hide this from her, but she's in a limited network zone, and I don't want to discuss this over a phone call. She's supposed to return tomorrow, and I'm nervous about how she's going to react to Brenda's visit. Brenda is my past, and she would never become my present or future, but I'm scared that this would ruin my chances with Alice. I'm crap scared. If you're honest and Alice is the woman you claim to be, there's nothing to worry about. Also, you wouldn't ever seriously consider going back to Brenda. There's nothing Brenda could give you that would make you happy. Alice makes you too happy. You guys have built something so special that not a lot of people can say the same. Brenda is old news. She shows the path. She's Update 3 on Update 3. Alice returned from her grandparents excited and thrilled, telling me about all the gifts and heirlooms she got from her grandparents and great-uncle. I tried to act normal, but she sensed the struggle I was going through. She knew I was distracted. She asked me politely what the matter was. It was then that I could not control myself. I blurted out everything. I told her about the unexpected return from Brenda, her regrets over the past decision, and her pleadings for another chance. Now I could see the insecurity in Alice's mind, but she kept her calm. She didn't say anything, just nodded throughout and asked me about my decision. I held her and assured her that there was nothing to decide. I never had a second thought about our marriage. I loved Alice and wanted to spend my life with her. I told her that I was nervous because I was in a dilemma, but because I feared how she would react to Brenda's visit. She acted maturely and said it didn't matter to her until I was unmoved by Brenda. A few days later, Brenda again showed up at my house. I wasn't home. Alice answered the door. Brenda lost her mind seeing Alice in the house. She asked Alice to call for me, but when she got to know that I wasn't home, she hurled abuses at Alice, accusing her of being a homewrecker. Alice said she was calm for a while and asked Brenda to come when I was there, but she kept calling her names. Alice then gave Brenda the piece of her mind. It led to a huge argument between them. When Alice threatened to call the police on Brenda after that incident, I received several calls and texts from Brenda, but I didn't answer them all. One day, she also showed up at my workplace, but I didn't meet her after waiting for hours. When she was about to leave, she saw Alice in the office and unleashed her frustration upon her. Alice called the office security to throw out Brenda. I was feeling bad that Alice had to go through so much because of my past. I have had enough now, too. It was the time to put Brenda in her place and let her know she wasn't worth the second chance. Regrets alone don't count. I called Brenda's parents and asked her for her location. I took Alice along with me and knocked on her door. Her parents might have told her that I took her address. She answered the door excitedly, but seeing Alice with me, she turned bitter. Seeing her face, I couldn't resist my anger and frustration. I started blurting out things. I tried to keep my words less severe, but I managed to express the pain and disappointment that had been built up in me. I told her up front that I loved Alice and was going to spend the rest of my life with her, and that Brenda was no less than a ghost to me. She held my hand and cried, but I shrugged her off and asked her to stay away from me. I told that my wedding with Alice was scheduled for the next week, and that she now needed to respect my choice and decision, which solely was Alice. Now she didn't stop there and tried her last bet, texting and calling both of us to call off the wedding. She also reached out to Alice's parents to tell them I didn't love Alice and was marrying her to get back at Brenda and nothing else. When it got too much, I filed the restraining order against Brenda. After that, she has not reached out to any of us. I guess she understood that I was not going to move away from my decision. Soon, she accepts the reality. Good for her. I'm just excited to marry my love, Alice, and spend my life with her. I feel so lucky to have her in my life. Brenda went crazy, and that's no one's fault but her own. I feel bad for Alice, who got all the abuse spat at her. She didn't deserve it at all. The only thing she's guilty of is loving a man who loves her back. Honestly, she's way too kind, because anyone else would have called the cops. Brenda didn't deserve the compassion that Alice showed her. Alice sounds like the woman you've always needed in your life. So happy for the two of you. Hopefully, Brenda can bug her off and learn to live with the choices she's made. What do you think? What would you have said to Brenda upon her return?